But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the Hasbara, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Be kind to the guys in this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. And, well, you know, when this war is all over, I think Iran really ought to put the Marikbar Amerika Lego set into production. I mean, Chad, have you been watching those videos that they keep putting out? It's like fucking just fascinating on a certain level to just see the degree to which people in the US are absolutely fucking vibing to the other side's propaganda. And you can understand it because actually, I mean, I speak as something of a connoisseur of propaganda. I've spent a long time looking at it, analyzing it, making sense out of like what people are doing in order to sometimes subtly, sometimes blatantly, sometimes quite sneakily and underhandedly, and sometimes quite openly and honestly to like convince people to adopt a certain take on something. And what they're doing is absolutely fucking next level, and the more you look at it, it's like you can just see the level of thought that has been put into it. Because, I mean, first you got the visuals, and it's Lego. It's like, it's the quintessential American childhood there. So you're already, you know, they're already, like, working with a visual vocabulary that immediately is familiar and comfortable. And then the very next thing they do is talk about what pieces of shit the U.S. government are, with specifically all the people in the cabinet. And again, most people will eat that up because nobody likes those people. In fact, so what they're doing is immediately creating a situation in which they suddenly become relatable. More so, indeed, than the people running the country. Because they say, yeah, wow, look at these pieces of shit. They suck, don't they? And everyone's like, yeah, actually, they do suck. I mean, this latest one that I saw, a friend of mine linked it to me, like, just before I went on. And there's stuff in there that I think might get my stream taken down, so I'm not going to show it, but I will link it in chat. I saw it on Twitter. But I mean, what's really interesting is not just, I mean, there's all sorts of subtle shit going on. Like, there's, like, 2 frames, practically, that is just Trump and Hegseth eating pizza. And in the context they're doing it, that is so very clearly an attempt. I mean, what they're doing there is they're trying to speak to, like, they have, like, Me Too gets a big moment in this thing, and just the massive anti-Muslim racism of Pete Hegseth and his Nazi tats and stuff like that. But, like, there are a couple of frames that are very clearly meant to specifically appeal to the QAnon assholes and say, and, like, especially the Pizzagate assholes, that very special subset of QAnon assholes, and say, hey, you know how you had that bullshit theory about the pizza, the pizza place in DC? Well, it turns out your boy is the one eating the pizza. And So, and they do this all with this visual vocabulary that is extremely familiar and relatable. And only then, once they've actually established this sort of rapport, do they switch over and like, suddenly the lyrics totally change tone, and it's like, this is what this war is about as far as we're concerned, and this is why actually we're on the right side of this thing. After you've already got this sort of rapport built, I mean, it is just, their books will be written about just this aspect of it. It is actually kind of fascinating to look at, especially when you compare it to Israeli propaganda lately, which is just some asshole shouting slurs into a camera, or like U.S. propaganda, which has definitely seen better days, especially around this war, because there's just no way you can sell this, because it was a bad idea that nobody wanted to get involved in, and then it's also just obviously losing. So, like, nobody is even trying to sell it. Even the people who clearly want to continue it, like, because Democrats could, they have the votes to call, to win on the War Powers resolution. They've had them for days because a number of Republicans came over. And they're not going anywhere near. They've said, like, we're going to give them a few more weeks to, like, murder some more people and, a few thousand more people and possibly lose another few fucking fighter planes. Very clearly they want to continue, but at the same time they also know that nobody's buying it and they shouldn't be selling it, and so they use this wishy-washy bullshit where they try to make it all procedural and stuff. And meanwhile, I mean, like, these videos, these Lego videos are very straightforward. They make the point very clearly and in a language that is totally understandable to everybody who is meant to be the target audience. And it's almost kind of refreshing on a certain level. I mean, it is just fascinating to watch. Speaking of fascinating things, I suppose, I had mentioned last week that I was going to start creating an audio podcast of the Punto Final translation project. And I have put the first episode up. That is available for free to all subscribers to my Patreon. Free subscribers, paid subscribers, doesn't matter. You all have access because I want everybody to see what I'm doing there on the first one. And then subsequent episodes will be available to anyone who's either contributed even just once, like, financially to the translation project, or is a $3 or higher paid subscriber on the Patreon. So either of those. And the files for these are rather large, so if you are one of the people who has it coming to them because they actually contributed in a non-Patreon way to the translation project, I have to figure out the best way to get it to you, because I can't just sort of send it through like a text message or something. The files are large, but I will, and just make sure that you let me know if you want it. I thought I would just play a little bit of it as a sample so people could see what they're getting before we get started. And also, let me just drop the address for anyone who would like to make a donation to the project. Those are always very much appreciated. I mean, the address Nightbot gave is good, and it'll encourage you to set up an account, but you don't have to. Or you can do it at this other address. But here, we're going to just listen to a little bit of the first episode here. Ooh, a link spammer. Goodbye, link spammer.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Punto Final Translation Project podcast.
Sable.
This podcast, in which I'll be providing audio recordings of the English translations I create as part of the project, will be available as exclusive content for $3 tier and up subscribers on my Patreon, as well as to anyone who has contributed to the ongoing crowdfunding for the crowdfunded translation project. Terrible solitude. Crashing.
And I'm going to just skip ahead. That's the intro. I'm quite proud of the audio for that intro. I was trying to do sort of late 1960s, early 1970s radical newsroom sounds. And so this is how I figured to get that across. But here's how the actual podcast sounds.
Against the apathy of the citizenry. Certain sectors of the left are irritated that others are noting this collective lack of motivation and refuse to acknowledge it because, according to them, to do so would play into the hands of the right, who are trying to draw the masses away from the attraction of the sport of electoral politics. Nonetheless, the phenomenon exists independently of the will or blindness of any given political group.
Finally, it's reached the right temperature.
Total loss of faith and confidence in bourgeois representative democracy, which is more accentuated in the popular classes because they see the parliament being swapped out incessantly without any change to their miserable living conditions.
I mean, and the more you listen to this, the more you read some of these things and listen to them, the more familiar a lot of these things sounds. I mean, this is written in 1969 about Chile, but it actually sounds kind of familiar, actually. And that is one of many things that you start to notice as you go through this stuff. I mean, it's fascinating material, and I'm going to be trying to put one of those up a week. But the first one's up there, and I hope everybody checks it out and enjoys it and spreads the word about it, because I think it could be a really cool thing. So, I have a bunch of things to look at, but I thought we would look at Francesca Fiorentini, since we were just talking about those Lego videos. It looks like Francesca Fiorentini has done a video looking at a couple of them, so I thought we might start out with that. Just look at a little bit of this.
So it has now been 5 weeks since the U.S. and Israel began their war on Iran, and Israel's like, also Lebanon, also Lebanon, Lebanon too. I love how they just snuck that in there. Like, is the American president answering at all for what the Israelis are doing in Lebanon?
I mean, no. I'm just gonna.
Or makes a little bit more sense, but still, just war crime after war crime after war crime. Again, there may be an invasion of Karg Island, where Iran produces its oil. There could be a seizing of the coastal lines near the Strait of Hormuz, which, we gotta open up, because nobody told Trump that they could close it. Nobody told him. That's what he said. Nobody told him that they.
I mean, and one thing to note there is because there's a lot of disinformation around this, but the Straits of Hormuz are open, actually. They're just closed to people who are involved in waging war against Iran. Everybody else can just go through, and they pay a toll that is actually allowing Iran's economy to recover from all the economic strangulation, and it's fine. But if you're the U.S. or you're Israel or you're anyone who's backing them, then no Hormuz for you.
They were going to close it. I mean, he still would have done the war anyway. The U.S. and Israel have also struck Iranian universities, have killed Iranian professors, and in retaliation, Iran is saying that they're going to strike American universities in the Middle East. So it's not going good, guys. It's very bad. And I have, like, the words of Abby Martin just are ringing in my head because of what a climate tipping point we are at right now. Just already we've been at in this on Earth.
I'm gonna skip because she's apparently talking about these videos, and I wanted to show a bit of that. So I figure if she's said it, then if she's shown it, then any bits that might cause some okay, here we go. Any bits that might cause me problems with the algorithm are not on there. So
their deportation flights, or lauding their deportation flights, and again, just like just disgraceful use of, like, just to get the, like, chud-brained little 13-year-olds who are now apparently at our airports. But this is so good. This is, and I'm gonna explain it for the podcast audience if you haven't seen it. This was last week, but this is what caught my eye that Iran is putting out there to, shore up support. Honestly, from the world over when it comes to
Hey, Shakespeare.
being against U.S. imperialism.
Oh, I haven't seen this one.
It starts off with a Native American man. It says like Native American lands, and he's like looking up to the sky. It goes to Japan and Hiroshima, and like a boy with a little boy on his back looking up to the sky. Then you have Vietnam, a woman in a rice paddy looking up to the sky. Oof. Yemen. I mean, you're skipping ahead. You're skipping through a lot of Central America, my guy, but like still, I'm here for it. There is Yemen, obviously backed by Saudi Arabia's war on Yemen and the Yemeni people. That
Really, I mean, it's the U.S. war. The U.S. did that through Saudi Arabia. If Saudi Arabia would not have done that shit on their own without knowing that the U.S. was sanctioning, because Saudi Arabia does not have any weapons unless the U.S. provides them.
U.S. was in lockstep with, supplied weapons for, there was some attempts to stop it, but Palestine and Gaza, a young girl in the rain, in sort of a rained out, refugee camp looking to the sky. Epstein Island, ladies and gentlemen, just a girl, like a little, like...
Yeah, I mean, and this is a fucking theme that they've been using. It's like, they...
4-year-old girl in a dress looks up to the sky on Epstein Island because they've been very, very pro Epstein victims, which you gotta love the level of trolling / honesty that we're seeing. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, one of the things that they've got going for them in all of this is their reputation in the U.S. The image that people in the U.S. have of them literally could not get worse. They've been demonized. Literally, my entire life, I've been hearing about how I'm supposed to be scared of Ayatollahs. Like, from the fucking 80s, all through the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, being, scaremongering about Iran, it's the worst place ever, all that kind of shit has been so standard. So it's like literally nobody could possibly think less of them in the U.S. because anything new that they hear that is different to what they've ever heard previously about Iran, coming from Iran, is going to tend to make them think, oh, maybe this is more complicated than all that. Maybe it's not quite so simple. Maybe actually the people who told us how much they suck also suck, and so maybe we shouldn't listen to them. I mean, and they are just doing this very effectively.
I don't mean to be all Hassan about it, and we'll talk in a little bit, but like, gun to your head, whose side you choosing? I think we know. I mean,
I don't think it's hard, because like, if the U.S. gets away with this shit, they're just going to keep doing more and more. First of all, if they get away with it, then that's going to probably mean that an entire huge country of 90 million people is going to be in total ruins, possibly with a lot of radiation leaking all over the place. That's going to mean that there's a genocide that's going to be much easier to finish off. And the U.S. is just going to keep on doing worse and worse things. Absolutely somebody needed to draw a line. It happens to be Iran in this case. It could have been somebody else. If fucking Sheinbaum or fucking Petro or, Lula, alguno de esos hueones que se dicen anti-imperialista de la boca para afuera, if any of them were to do it, they're fucking welcome too. But they're not, so it ended up, so it's Iran that did it. Somebody was going to have to, and the longer it was left, the nastier the whole thing was going to end up being. So actually, yeah, like, the U.S. losing this is the best thing for literally everybody in the world, including people in the U.S.
Like good for Iran, you know what I'm saying? Good for them. Iran in Minab, this is the hundreds of girls who were killed in a girls' school in the very first day of this war. The opening salvo was a war crime, double tapped. In other words, when the rescuers came to save and to try to help the victims and the survivors of this bombing, they were also bombed.
I mean, and what's wild about this as well is the shift in tone. Because I didn't remember, I think I saw a couple of stills from this, but I didn't remember this one. And it is like a total shift from the whole Lego thing that they ended up going with.
General Qasem Soleimani, I'm not going to go there with you. I'm not no love lost for Soleimani. Ayatollah Khamenei, And then here comes an Iranian missile right to...
Note, the Statue of Liberty is like, what is that, Baphomet?
The Statue of Liberty. The pig-headed Statue of Liberty being obliterated. One vengeance for all is the final bumper. God damn.
Yeah.
God damn. I would say, I mean, again, not a lot of love for the Iranian regime specifically, but very much an axis of resistance move here. And look, I was at the No Kings protest over the weekend. I was here in downtown LA, and I emceed.
And LA is one of the ones where something interesting happened because they managed to like break open the outer enclosure of an ICE concentration camp. I mean, I saw people on social media being like, hey, they should have just stormed it. It's like there were just a handful of them and you have a bunch of Nazis streaming them. Like, obviously that wasn't going to happen. But even just showing that you can do that much. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Because there is stuff in this propaganda. It is not the main focus of it, but it's in there. And it's in there specifically to attract the sort of people who buy into Alex Jones's bullshit. Like, I mean, they manage, which is a really wild thing to try to pull off, where you're trying to appeal to people who remember and supported Me Too, and fucking, like, Alex Jones fans in the same thing.
It was great. I hope people were there. I do think it's important to go out and protest. And Iran's been crushing it with their, they're doing some Legos AI now. And so here is...
Yeah, I mean, which is just, the tone shift is impressive. Like, you look at that, and that is very somber and everything, that last one. I mean, I noticed there was one, like, they sort of made a... I guess they didn't really check it with their editors, because the kid is smiling up at the sky, or the woman, I forget, somebody in a situation where you wouldn't be smiling up at the sky, because death is coming from the sky, was smiling, which isn't quite right. But other than that, I mean, a totally different mood.
Another thing they did. So it's Trump.
Like, seriously, I said this at the beginning, I don't know if you were there, but when this thing is over, they need to bring out the Matic Bat Amity Call Lego set, because that shit would fly off the shelves.
As a Lego inside the White House, as a bunch of little angry Legos are outside.
But it's
saying,
the Lego Beastie Boys, it looks like.
Stop the war, and then my favorite, No King, which is great. Like, it's No Kings, but I love that the AI translation just became No King. Little signs that say loser. Oil prices are going up. Then he pulls out from his file quick solutions to war, and it says Karg Island. He calls all his military guys, his CIA.
Style animation.
Anyway, it gets kind of good from there. The music kicks up. It's very fun. Is very much.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like they managed to hit every single fucking food group there. Because apart from everything else, like, there's some dodgy shit. Like, if you look at it carefully at that fucking, at the Statue of Liberty, if you look under the sea, there's actually, like, a fucking stone tablet that had Hebrew writing and said, like, Talmud something or other. Which, yeah, not... But it is clearly as like, just from a technical standpoint, as something that is meant to reach out to a large numbers of people from a by default hostile audience and say, yeah, actually, you're probably more with us on this one than you realize. God, I mean, it's just like fucking incredible. I mean, people will write dissertations on this shit. I am sure of it.
So, I don't know. Is there a new Lego movie coming out?
Okay, so that was just a little bit. I was hoping we were going to see a little bit more. But let's see. Let's see how Ben Shapiro is dealing with this situation. He's always such an even-keeled guy, and he knows how to get on the wrong side of an issue really early on. Trump proposes peace. Guess what Iran said? Well, I mean, fuck knows, because they ghosted him. Which is a true way of showing that you're totally winning.
Foreign Minister Abbas Araqi said in an interview on state TV.
It's Araqchi. It's not actually that hard to pronounce. Araqchi. Like, the only thing in there that is complicated for an English speaker is g, and if you just say g, you know. But, like, it's not Araqi. It's not Araqi.
TV.
Oh, and he's got his cute little leftist tears thermos.
That his government has not engaged in talks to end the war, and we do not plan on any negotiations. And that follows a report from Iranian state TV's English language broadcaster, Press TV, that quoted an official saying, quote, Iran rejected America's ceasefire proposal and has its own demands for an end to the fighting. Iran will end the war when it decides to do so and when its own conditions are met. And it attributed to the anonymous official an Iranian 5-point proposal.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a lot of anonymous officials. Hello, old owl hootin', how you doing? And just fun owl fact, just since I've got somebody owl-themed in here. You know what the Welsh word for owl is? I love this. It is one of the best words. Goody hoo. It just sounds owl. There was actually an absolutely epic club in central Cardiff for a long time called Goody Hoo.
That included a halt to the killings of all of its officials, means to make sure that there is no future war waged against it, reparations, we're supposed to pay them.
Yes, yeah, that's kind of what happens when you're the aggressor and you do a whole lot of damage and you are not looking like winning the thing.
The end of hostilities and Iran's total exercise of sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, which is that can't be. That can't be. If Iran...
I mean, it's literally, half of it's their territorial waters and the other half is Oman's. So, like, that is.
Iran is still in control of the Strait of Hormuz. How exactly would that not be of massive benefit to the Iranian regime? The rest of...
Well, yeah, I know. It absolutely is. It's great for them. I mean, they're probably thinking, why didn't we think of this earlier?
The world could not sit still for that. But of course...
Yeah, but the world's kind of cool with it because most of the world can get in and out. Most of the world is not waging war against Iran, and so Iran lets them through. Couple of $1 million in rials they have to pay, but I mean, for the kind of money that these shipments are worth, that's not much.
President Trump has already announced that there have been certain concessions from Iran. He suggested yesterday...
Oh, well, he's announced that. He's claimed that is more accurate, because there haven't been.
There was a big, beautiful prize that had been handed to him by Iran.
Of course there was. Like, this has got to be like the last person on the planet who actually believes a word he's saying or even pretends to.
Turns out that is likely a few ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz unharassed. The Times of Israel reported that Iran...
Well, yeah, except those ships, wasn't a gift to the U.S. because they don't get to be U.S. ships. They don't get to be Israeli ships either.
Had agreed to allow a number of fuel tankers not tied to the U.S. or Israel through the Strait of...
Oh, yeah, that is how you spell it, too. I guess you looked it up. Yeah, goody hoo. Exactly.
Hormuz, in order to help calm global markets. Now, again, Iran publicly continues to maintain they're doing nothing to foster negotiations, and President Trump's...
Yeah, and why would they, actually? Because the last time there were negotiations, the U.S. used them as cover for a fucking sneak attack, so there's no credibility there.
Says privately they're negotiating. I think that if they want to play chicken, they have picked the wrong guy to play chicken with.
No, well, yes, because he's a chicken without a head, I guess?
Caroline Leavitt at the White House yesterday.
President Trump does not bluff, and he is prepared to...
He doesn't bluff, right. Ask Yemen if Trump bluffs.
Unleash hell. Iran should not miscalculate again. Their last miscalculation cost them their senior leadership, their Navy, their Air Force, and their air defense system.
I mean, their air defense system seems to be working pretty well, actually. not only, I mean, they downed an F-15 today, and yesterday they took down an F-35, and particularly embarrassing for one Keith Starmer, that F-35 had unit markings showing it belonged to the 495th Fighter Squadron, part of the 45th Fighter Wing, and that matters to Keir Starmer because that's based at RAF Lakenheath, which means a plane attacking Iran has a home base in Britain, so Britain is directly complicit here. Yeah, exactly.
Any violence beyond this point will be because the Iranian regime refused to understand they have already been defeated.
Yeah, that's not how defeat works. Well, I mean, Britain is too far away for them really to do much, and they haven't said that they're going to target Britain. But it probably does mean that Britain's not getting anything through the Strait of Hormuz anytime soon.
And refused to come.
I mean, an RAF Akrotiri is totally within range. Britain considers it their, like, sovereign territory. So, I mean, they will have to think about that a little bit.
To a deal.
President Trump put out a statement on Truth Social, quote, "The Iranian negotiators are very different and strange. They're..."
Yeah, the one that came out today, the one that's all about, like, Me Too, and it has Lego Pete Hegseth puking Lego puke into a punch bowl. Yes, I saw that right before I went on. That was fucking wild. Like, if you told me that the epic, like, the war that spells, like, the United States' own very personal Stalingrad was going to be accompanied by a rap battle, I don't know what I would have told you a few years ago if you had told me that sort of shit. But here we are, and Iran is winning the rap battle.
Are begging us to make a deal, which they should be doing.
Why would they? Why should they? The Iranian negotiators are very different and quote-unquote strange. They are quote-unquote begging us to make a deal. Well, like, those are weird uses of quotation marks. Yet they publicly state they're only looking at our proposal. I mean, no, they've publicly said they're not even considering it.
Since they've been militarily obliterated with zero chance of a comeback. And
I mean, like, Trump clearly doesn't bluff. Zero chance of a comeback. Like, literally, the U.S. military is hiding in fucking hotels all over the Gulf. Yeah, hey, Adria. We're watching Ben Shapiro try to deal with the fact that, to put it in a somewhat anachronistic terms, his great leaders' victories keep getting closer and closer to Berlin.
That they publicly state they're only looking at our proposal. Wrong. They better get serious soon before it is too late, because once that happens, there's no turning back and it won't be pretty. It's hard to find leadership over there, mainly because every time a new leader is appointed, that leader is dead within 48 hours.
I mean, actually, that has not kept happening. I mean, some top military people, yes. And now, I mean, and just here's another aspect of this that is just totally, like, a charm offensive. Like, that you really couldn't pick your targets better. If you wanted to also kind of signal that you're taking out people that most people in the U.S. are not really happy with in the first place, they decided for every high-level assassination the U.S. does, they're going to target U.S. tech billionaires' assets in the region. And in confirmation of that, they took out yet another AWS data center, and today they took out something belonging to Oracle. So, your line going down.
Was the president yesterday.
Ever seen anything like we're doing in the Middle East with Iran? And they are negotiating, by the way, and they want to make a deal so badly, but they're afraid to say it.
I mean, spoken like a guy who is prominent in the Epstein files there. They want us, they want me, they totally want to make a deal with me, but they're afraid to say it. They're playing hard to get.
Because they figure they'll be killed by their own people. They're also afraid they'll be killed by us. There's never been a head of a country that wanted that job less than being the head of Iran.
And again, he's not wrong about that. Last night.
Is he? Is he not wrong, Ben? I mean, admittedly, I'm a few days ahead of him because this is from a couple of days ago. This is actually clips that I was commenting. We were watching the stark contrast between the sort of slop that David Pacman came up with, where he just sort of pretended he didn't understand what that clip was about, or the Carolyn Levitt clip either. And like the way that Electronic Intifada and Ali Abunama had managed to, like, the amount of analysis that they did on it. So this is slightly old news at this point.
Israel apparently killed the Iranian officials responsible for closing the Strait of Hormuz itself.
Like, I mean, they've been doing... Israel only has one fucking move, apart from just murdering huge numbers of civilians. And that is just killing top leaders. It's all... That is... They keep doing it. They did it with Hamas, with Yassin. And then they did it with Sinwar and Al-Daif and Haniya. And they did it with Shaqaqi and PIJ. They did it with... Ali Abu Mustafa in the PFLP. They did it with Nasrallah, you know, and it never actually works out for them. It has never achieved the thing that they think, because they have this idea. I mean, this really deeply racist idea that, like, Arabs or Muslims are some sort of hive mind and all you have to do is kill the guy at the top and it'll change everything. And it's like, that's not how any of this works. The reason that these organizations exist is because there are a huge number of people behind them saying this is the kind of organization we want to have, which means there's a million people waiting to come up behind them, and not all of them are going to be as easy to deal with as the ones they're killing. In fact, I mean, I remember some, like, Hezbollah person after Nasrallah got assassinated said, you know, they're going to regret this because he was the nicest one among us.
Israel reports, quote, Defense Minister Israel Katz says the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, Ali Reza Tangsiri, was killed in an Israeli strike. He said, quote, the IDF eliminated the commander of the IRGC Navy, the person directly responsible for the terror operation of mining and blocking the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, yeah, I mean, did that open the Strait of Hormuz to Israeli and U.S. traffic, though?
To maritime traffic. Okay, let's get into what comes next. The most
oh, yeah, I can't wait to hear what comes next. Let's hear it. Like, okay, so show us where this somehow ends up well for your guy, Ben.
It's Carg Island. I've been saying that all along. And I'm 40 years late. President Trump said it in 1988.
Yeah, and it was a bad idea then. I mean, if you just need to look at we were talking about this last week, and it didn't happen, and it didn't happen for very understandable reasons, because, like, anyone who spends 5 seconds looking at a topographical map knows it's a really, really bad fucking idea, because it's right up against the Iranian coast, and the Iranian coast has a massive altitude advantage over it. So, I mean, it's not D-Day or Dunkirk, it is Gallipoli. Like, they have complete control from the coast of anything that goes on that island. So, like, the last plan that I heard was some top general had come up with an idea where it was basically going to be Gallipoli, except that you also had to build a landing strip and do a little bit of light mining at the same time as you're getting getting wrecked by all the fire on all sides. Like, I mean... And this is why they're firing the top generals. They're firing the top generals because they think that that's the problem. They've created a situation that is impossible to get out of without embarrassment, without making concessions that they don't want to make. And they think it's the general's fault. I mean, it's like, it's fucking downfall. where supposedly it's Steiner's fault that the Steiner attack didn't happen. Because it couldn't possibly be the fault of the brain box who had the idea of invading Russia in the first place.
Iranians are already trying to threaten President Trump out of such a move. Mohammed Khalibaf, that's the guy who supposedly we're negotiating with, the supposed moderate in Iran. Folks,
he's the head of the parliament and supposedly is doing a lot of work there because he says he's not talking with anybody on the U.S. side.
30,000 Iranians last month or 2 months ago. He said yesterday there would be hell to pay if Kharg Island, again, that's the small island that houses 90% of Iranian oil capacity for export.
Well, I mean, one mistake, Francesca Fiorentini made it too. That's not where the oil is produced. That is where it that is the export terminal. The oil is produced elsewhere. It just gets transported to the island, and then whoever's buying it from them picks it up there.
If it were attacked. So he threatened relentless attacks if Kharg were attacked. He said, our forces are monitoring all enemy movements. If they take any step, all the vital infrastructure of that regional country will be targeted with relentless, unceasing attacks. That's actually fascinating because it sounds as though he is concerned that UAE or Saudi is actually going to attack.
Yeah, well, yes, that's very clever of you. Yes, deterring any direct involvement on the part of any of those countries is like very explicitly that you don't have to like speculate on that. They've been very explicit about it to the extent that they actually said, look, don't let the US or Israel use your airspace or your bases or your territory to attack us. And if this war is over as far as you're concerned, we won't bother you. And the U.S. must have been terrified that that was going to be taken seriously as an offer because they immediately launched an attack on an Iranian desalination plant and launched it specifically from Bahrain. Very good, Ben. Yeah, they are trying to prevent other countries getting directly involved in it. And they seem to be fairly successful at that because all of these countries are already seeing what just having U.S. bases on their territory means.
Kharg Island, right? That's kind of fascinating. He says the infrastructure of that regional country, right? He's not talking about the United States there, which, as we'll get to in a moment, it's possible. Right? America's Arab allies are not in favor of us leaving Iran's government in place.
Oh, I mean, they are at this point, they're actually kind of pissed off at the U.S. because nobody consulted them about this, and they're just actually getting fucking hammered. Yeah, he has a deeply annoying voice. He has a voice that just suggests that maybe his sinuses need some drilling.
It's like their worst fear is that Iran's government is left in place to sort of restock. According to CNN, Iran has been building up defenses of Kharg Island
probably for 40 years
in order to protect against a potential U.S. ground assault. According to CNN, quote, Iran has been laying traps and moving additional military personnel and air defenses to Kharg Island in recent weeks in preparation for a possible U.S. operation to take control of...
which is just another example of literally every single aspect of this. They saw it coming years ago because it wasn't actually that, hard to foresee.
Officials and military experts say there would be significant risks involved in a ground operation.
That's putting it mildly.
A large number of U.S. casualties. The island has layered defenses. The Iranians have moved additional shoulder-fired surface-to-air guided missile systems known as man-pads there, as well as anti-personnel.
Man-pads sounds like some sort of pad that is marketed to trans men.
And anti-armor mines around the island and on the shoreline where troops would make an amphibious landing. Now, again, I would assume that our military planners have...
Or to cis guys who are trying to avoid leaving skid marks.
We're constantly hearing about the magical defense capabilities of the Iranians, and so far the magical defense capabilities of the Iranians appear to be putting their bodies in the way of American bombs.
I mean, well, that's because you keep on dropping this stuff on civilians and stuff, but also they've taken down a fairly significant number of drones. By this point, they had already clipped an F-35. Multiple drones they've taken down. Of course, he you know, he recorded this before this happened, but I mean, they've taken down an F-18 and an F-35, like the most advanced fucking fighter plane on the planet, and they took it down. So I would say that their air defenses are actually not in terrible shape, because the thing about their air defenses is they're largely mobile. A lot of it is shoulder-mounted anti-aircraft weapons. So, like, I mean, it's not like big anti-aircraft. I mean, they've got like missile installations too, but most of the stuff can be moved around if they need to. Like, if they think that a particular area is going to be targeted.
It's not working amazing. And our Arab allies are getting antsy. They're becoming more clear in their support for open military action.
Yeah, I mean, that is not particularly clear. I mean, Qatar was actually talking about removing some, divesting some of their holdings in the U.S. because they're so pissed off at the U.S. doing this without ever telling them that this was going to happen.
In fact, 6 Arab states put out a statement, again condemning the Iranian attacks. The UAE ambassador to the United States...
Well, yeah, this is just kissing the ring.
Wrote in the Wall Street Journal, quote, "More needs to be done to remove the missile and drone threats. We are ready to join an international initiative to reopen the strait and keep it open."
Oh, yeah, every time, there's so many versions of this, and they always avoid saying any specifics. Like, there's nothing that says we're willing to commit troops to reopening the straits. There's nothing that says that they're willing to, like, contribute their navy to reopening. In fact, nobody seems to be interested in that. I mean, that is like there are so many just moments of sheer embarrassment for the, like, U.S. leadership and all this. But the fact that Trump actually went out and said, any country, any company wants to get through the Hormuz Strait, we'll just give them a naval escort and something. Well, that was a terrible impression. And then apparently their phones were ringing off the hook and the Navy wasn't calling him back. And then he went and started asking other countries, could you please send your Navy to do this? We don't want to have our ships sunk. And everyone was like, yeah, no. We don't either.
Asking the U.S. to carry the full burden. We're defending our people, protecting regional stability and global prosperity, and demonstrating that real alliances
Global prosperity. Whose?
Are built on cooperation and contribution, not dependency. We want Iran.
What do you mean, not dependency? That's hilarious. Because, like, literally all of these regimes, the reason that they're kissing the ring like this, the reason they're not considering saying, Trump put us in an impossible situation here, and if Saudi and Iran can kind of mend fences a little bit, then surely we can do the same. They're like siding with the guy that ensures that they're going to continue having U.S. assets on their territory bombed. They're doing that because they would not be in power for very long if the U.S. withdrew their support. I mean, especially Bahrain. I mean, the censorship is really tight in Bahrain. But, I mean, there were signs very early on that this was potentially going to be destabilizing the dictatorship there again. I mean, the last time that happened, Saudi Arabia ended up invading in order to ensure the puppet regime remained. Now hardly anything is coming out of there, so it's hard to say.
Normal neighbor.
At least I'm not seeing
anything. And
anything.
even unwelcoming, but it can't attack its neighbors, blockade international waters, or export extremism. Building a fence around the problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, Saudi Arabia signed on to this shit about exporting extremism. Like, the country that gave us Al-Qaeda wants to talk about exporting extremism. And they're doing this allied with the country who really helped act as sort of the Johnny Appleseed of neo-Nazi movements all over Europe in the post-war. Just apropos fucking exporting extremism.
Goes away isn't the answer. It would simply defer the next crisis. And of course, UAE is totally right about this. Again, that's not the Israelis. That is UAE.
So, well, yeah, but you do have to say that because what the UAE says and what Israel says are practically identical.
What is the endgame here? The real endgame. The answer is...
Okay, yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear your endgame.
Regime change behavior.
What is regime change behavior? That doesn't sound like regime. That's like when you look at a fucking like a Reese's product and it says that it has chocolate candy in it, and the reason it has that extra word is because it hasn't got chocolate. Regime change behavior is more syllables but less, but somehow despite that actually means something less than actual regime change, because that shit isn't working either.
If that won't happen, then actual regime change.
Oh, regime changed behavior, as in changed behavior on the part of the regime. Well, they have changed the behavior. Like, Iran was content to de-escalate and work through all of this shit diplomatically for years and years and years, despite the fact that everything that was being demanded of them was something that nobody had any right to demand of them. They have no, and like, the U.S. has no right to restrict their civilian nuclear power development. They have every right. They're a signatory to the NPT. I mean, so their behavior has changed, actually, Ben. I don't think it's changed in a way that's particularly favorable for Washington, but it has absolutely changed, because if you just go back a couple of months ago, they were open to talking, and now they just want to make sure that this is so painful that nobody will ever think of attacking them again. So their behavior has definitely changed.
Caroline Levitt said, we want an Iranian leader who doesn't chant death to America. That would be preferable.
As I've said repeatedly, I think the president obviously...
A great way to achieve that. I mean, like murdering the last Iranian leader along with his 14-month-old granddaughter and his daughter. So that's a great way to ensure that whoever his successor is, in this case his son, whose 14-month-old daughter was also murdered in that strike, will absolutely feel very warmly towards the United States.
It believes the United States wants to have someone in leadership position in the Iranian regime that will be much more favorable, that will be willing to work with the United States, that will no longer chant death to America.
Have you ever considered not inspiring people to chant that?
Iran knows this, by the way, and that is the reason.
Well, yeah, exactly. They know exactly the U.S. wants a fucking puppet regime. Of course they know that perfectly well, because the U.S. already did that once there. In fact, so much of what they've done since then has been to make sure that the U.S. can't do that again, actually. But, okay, this one's over. So, let's see, what else have we got? Oh, here we go, some ass gold. We'll see how he's coping. This is more recent. This is from 2 days ago. This is when Trump gave that absolute nothing burger of a speech.
Thank you very much.
And you're not welcome. And even his fucking... Look at it. His chat is actually roasting Trump. Damn, look how orange he is today. Orange. Come on with it, your orange bastard, which is great because that's a Six Counties reference. That's the Orange Lodge.
My fellow Americans, good evening.
Hi.
Let me
fuck off. Hi.
Begin by congratulating the
This'll just make you wish for Shapiro's voice.
team at NASA and our brave astronauts on the successful launch of.
Yeah, I mean, you really do have to congratulate them because, I mean, they truly are the winners in all this because they were flying away from the Earth at 11,000 miles an hour. And I think a lot of people watching this were very jealous of that.
Artemis 2, it was quite something.
Big dick.
It will be traveling further than any manned rocket has ever flown and will very substantially pass the moon, go around it, and come back home from a distance that has blessed us for.
Okay, stop picking your fucking boils, Asmongold. You're on camera. Fucking Rasputin, motherfucker.
And in control of the Islamic Revolutionary. Most of them, Air Force is in ruins. Tonight, Iran's Navy is gone.
No, it isn't.
Their Air Force is in ruins.
Yeah, also not true.
Their leaders, most of them, terrorist regime they led, are now dead.
I mean, yeah, but they have an order of succession. Like, fucking, look at him. Look at Askold, though. Like, acting like he's so impressed with this. Trump's been saying the same bullshit for days now. And every single time, it is to cover up the fact that the U.S. has been humiliated again. And Aspen going like, holy shit. Wow, bars. He's spitting bars.
Their command and control of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is being decimated as we speak.
I mean, there's no sign of that. They actually, like, command and control does not just mean top commanders. That means the entire ability to function in an organized way. And their command and control is clearly intact. Like, the point of command and control... Because, I mean, the thing about a military organization is they kind of assume that, like, some of the people, or many of the people involved in a particular military operation might turn up dead. The point of command and control is to ensure that doesn't actually matter. That, you know, whoever's next can just take over.
Their ability to launch missiles and drones is dramatically curtailed.
Yeah, I mean, there's no sign of that. Like, I mean, one of the most ridiculous things, the U.S., like, and their propagandists will be like, well, the number of missiles per launch has gone down. But the thing is, of course it's gone down. Because at the beginning, they had to overwhelm air defenses. And the way they overwhelm air defenses is by sending a whole bunch of shit over there, so a couple will get through. Now there are basically no more air defenses. They don't need to bother with that so much. So they've settled into, like, larger, more advanced weapons with bigger warheads, because that are hitting their targets without having to deal with quite as much shit from interceptors as they had been, because the interceptors are running low.
The weapons, factories, and rocket launchers are being blown to pieces. Very few of them left.
I mean, how the fuck would he know? Most of them are underground.
Never in the history of warfare has an enemy suffered such clear and devastating large-scale losses in a matter of weeks.
Like, I mean, the losses that he's... I mean, this... it is the level of cope here. And watch, I mean, fucking Aspen Goldfish just eating this shit up.
Our enemies are losing in America, as it has been for 5 years under my presidency, is winning, and now winning.
As it has been for 5 years? What, he's claiming the Biden years too? I mean, I did call that the Biden-Trump administration because there was so much overlap, but I hadn't actually heard one of the two of them explicitly claim that.
Bigger than ever before.
Like, he seems to think he's been president for 5 straight years.
Never win this
before
much
discussing the...
Never winning this much so far. Yeah, I mean, tell us more, military historian Askold.
This current situation, I also want to thank our troops for the masterful job they did in taking the country of Venezuela in a matter of minutes.
They didn't take the country of Venezuela in a matter of minutes. They didn't even try. They did a kidnapping operation with some bombing of civilians in order to provide cover, and then they got the fuck out. And that's why it was so successful. If they had tried to do this shit, even if they had abducted Maduro, even Daisy Rodriguez would have to actually, you know, put up a proper fight, because it would be just too obvious who she was working for if she did. Even Daisy would actually have to put up for a fucking fight. That's why they didn't do that. That was actually it was a criminal decision for them to do it at all, but it was, like, in terms of doing crime effectively, it was a sensible way of doing crime.
That hit was quick, lethal, violent, and respected by everyone all over the world.
But yes, it was quick, it was lethal, it was violent, and it was respected by literally nobody.
After rebuilding our military during my first term, we have by far the strongest military anywhere in the world.
Like, this is...
And now we're working along with Venezuela.
Yeah, he's just fucking nodding along.
And are in a true sense joint venture partners. We get the United States of America.
Like, is he gonna say anything? Or is he just gonna, like, I mean, this is even more pathetic because he's just sitting here, like, eating this up.
I want to provide an update on the tremendous progress our warriors have made in Iran and discuss why Operation Epic Fury is necessary for the safety of America and the security of the free world.
Oh, yes. Let's hear it. Try to explain why this was a good idea. Like, I don't even if we accept the imperialist point of view on the legitimacy of the objectives or any of that shit, I cannot for the life of me see how this was a good idea, and that is why I think that is a big part of why Democrats were goading him into doing it. They didn't want to be the ones to do this.
From the very first day.
Oh god, and even like Asmongold's chat is like Epstein Fury.
I announced my campaign for president in 2015. This for death to Israel, for 47, death to America, death to Israel, for 47 years.
Well, I mean, I wonder why. I wonder what. Maybe they have some sort of beef with the U.S. It sounds like. Maybe you should ask them what the problem was.
Their proxies were behind the murder of 241 Americans in the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut.
What were the U.S. Marines doing in Beirut, by the way? Like, I mean, what you have to know, because I've seen people who, like, point various aspects of this out, but one of the things you have to know is that bombing of that occupation barracks of the invading U.S. Marines in Lebanon, who were not welcome to be in Lebanon, is that they had car-bombed a mosque a few days earlier, killing a very respected imam and a few hundred worshippers. And so the barracks bombing was a direct response to that, and unlike the bombing that prompted it, which was all civilians, it was just a terrorist attack on a civilian population that only killed Marines.
The slaughter of hundreds of our service members with roadside bombs.
Well, where were those service members when they got hit with the roadside bombs, though? Like, they were in Peoria, I guess, in Jacksonville. Like, you mean when they were occupying other people's countries?
They were involved in the attack on the USS Cole.
And like literally nobody, I've never heard anyone claim that they were involved in the USS Cole, which it's worth noting. I mean, how far back are we going here?
About the countless other heinous acts, including the just horrible, bloody atrocities of October 7th in Israel.
Fuck off. Like, first of all, Iran, we know that Iran knew nothing about it. Because the Palestinian resistance kept that extremely close to their chest, first of all. But, I mean, it's kind of fitting that this is mentioned here, because it really kind of points up... I haven't heard anyone else say this, and I think, and so I'm going to say it. I think the actual uniting thread that connects the genocide in Gaza to what's going on now, and explains why it has been so fucking endless, is deterrence. Because, I mean, yeah, they love, like, the propagandists love to come up with all this bullshit about, like, supposed atrocities and beheaded babies and all that bullshit that supposedly happened on October 7th, and we're all asked to condemn Hamas for shit that we know didn't happen at this point. But if you strip all that away, if you strip every bit of that away, and you look at what we definitely know for a fact did happen, you can see why it would have shaken the U.S. and Israel, both of their leaderships, to the fucking core. because it was an attack on their deterrence. The elite Gaza division of the IDF was defeated in a half an hour. Like, less time than it takes to get a fucking pizza delivered. The resistance rolled over them. Just completely fucking steamrolled them. It took Israel 2 days to reestablish control over the Gaza envelope after that. That was a massive humiliation, and it was heard around the world. Like, footage of, like, Palestinian fighters actually riding around in Merkava fucking tanks with their flags on them. Yeah. So, okay. So, the thing is, so much of the U.S. position in the Middle East is based on deterrence. It is based on the idea that the U.S. is a bad motherfucker and you wouldn't want to cross them. And Israel is part of that. Israel's deterrence is the U.S.'s deterrence. Israel is there to be scary to the locals so that the U.S. doesn't have to always do it. And what happened on October 7th is that it turned out the IDF is worthless. They are absolutely a fucking joke as a military force. Literally all they can do is murder fucking women, children, and old people. Preferably unarmed ones. Because otherwise they shit themselves and run away. And so what happened? And here's the thing. So you have this huge genocidal operation that is very much about restoring deterrence, even though they can't say that. Because if they say that, if they admit that that's what it's about, people will say, well, that doesn't seem like a good enough reason to murder tens of thousands of people in a matter of weeks. So you can't say that. But then the thing is, there was a short window in which the U.S. could have called the thing off and said, oh, we're doing it for humanitarian reasons. And it wouldn't have looked like a defeat. They would just be saying enough. Because it would have just been still way more than any mass murder operation Israel had ever pulled off in Gaza up until then. But, there hadn't been a ground operation at that point. When there was a ground operation, that window kind of closed. Because then Israel started getting fucking wrecked on the ground. It turned out, actually, all of that mass murder, it hadn't touched the resistance. The resistance was absolutely combat ready. And they actually took out more than half of Israel's armor over 2 years of intense fighting on their part and just massacres of defenseless people on Israel's part. And so even that attempt to restore deterrence failed. And at this point, if the U.S. pulls out of it, if Israel pulls out of it, there's no way to do that it isn't a defeat. Because at that point, they're just admitting we can't beat the Palestinian resistance. And if you're the most technically sophisticated, according to Kamala Harris, most lethal military ever, that is a very embarrassing admission. And it is an admission of great consequence because everybody in the world who has a beef with you is hearing, holy shit, they couldn't handle the Qassam brigades. They probably couldn't handle us either. So they had to keep going, and it didn't work. And Israel was falling apart at the seams, and they finally just decided to do a fake-ass ceasefire, because the only way that they could get any kind of an edge is, since they take out their military embarrassments out on other people's civilians, these resistance organizations are accountable to the populations they're defending. So they can't. So if the level of sacrifice, the level of harm that their civilian population is taking from all of this reaches a certain point, they are going to call a stop to it just to allow people some respite to recover. And Israel does not really give a shit, and they just use that as an opportunity to continue attacking without having to worry about getting shot. So. Deterrent, but the trouble was, in all of that time, the resistance repeatedly, every time the U.S. said, okay, they've agreed to disarm, the resistance said, fuck you, no, we haven't. We're not disarming ever, actually. Why the fuck would we? Because, look at it. So deterrence was still not established. And meanwhile, Iran was actually looking pretty good at this point. So, like, the U.S. and Israel and the U.S. attack Iran. A couple of relatively minor attacks. First, like, the Damascus consulate, and then Tehran. And Iran does not immediately, like, beg for mercy, and instead they do a very de-escalatory but perfunctory response each time to say, yeah, we're not going to let you get away with that, but we're not going to escalate the situation out of control either. That's another hit to deterrence. Yeah, well, the thing is that deterrence often is bluster. Bluster can be a good deterrent, but the trouble is that if your deterrence is bluster, you cannot afford to actually allow it to be put to the test. And that's what's happened here. It's been put to the test, and millions of people have seen that the US and Israel are nowhere near as fucking tough as they said they were. And they're desperately trying to find some way to reestablish a world in which people are enthralled to them. And it's not working. Every time they do more of it, it falls apart a little bit more. And so, like, at this point, there is absolutely no way that they can actually get out of this without just totally admitting that they are defeated. They will have to make concessions. Because they have created a situation where, like, Iran really does have quite reasonable grounds to say that they have to make sure that this thing, that this isn't going to repeat itself. Because, yeah, I mean, like, Chomsky and Parenti both describe the international system based on, like, mafia references, and it is a very good reference. I think it because it really describes it. When you get down to it, when you're dealing with sort of, like, great power imperial politics, you're dealing... international law doesn't matter. They can talk about all the fucking rules-based orders and all that shit. Everybody knows that that shit doesn't matter, except for, like, international law specialists who have terminal lawyer brain. It's a painful and embarrassing affliction. But the thing is, if you look at it, it is ultimately, you have, like, these powerful countries that have a huge amount of weapons and everything, and clout, and so they go around and they give orders and they sort of exact tribute from various countries, and in various ways, cash crops, trade concessions, whatever the fuck they happen to want at a given time. Could be, like, tulip onions or something. But the thing is, if one country says, yeah, fuck you, we're not doing it, and they end up doing okay after that, if they say, we're done working with you, we don't really see any reason to be sucking up to you all like this, and they manage to get away with that, then other people are going to be looking and saying, hey, why are we paying these assholes when those guys over there, they just, they stopped and nothing's happening to them? And all of a sudden, nobody gives a fuck about you. And so, now the technical term for this is credibility. The US's credibility, which is to say that if you don't obey U.S. orders, you will experience, like, mass destruction in your country, and you will be made to regret it and beaten to submission. And everybody will understand what happens if you disobey the master. But the trouble it isn't working. It isn't, they already got embarrassed by Yemen. By Yemen. Their navy got kicked out of the Red Sea by Yemen, a country that hasn't got a navy. Apart from, like, 2 or 3 fucking Zodiacs. They're, at this point, this has created a situation where it is only a matter of time before other people start calling the US's bluff. And they're terrified, they're shit scared of that, because they have been writing checks on this deterrence for a very long time on the assumption that nobody would ever take them to the bank. And now, like, Iran's just deposited 47 years of them all at once, and the U.S. is overdrawn.
Something that most people have never seen anything like it. This murderous regime also recently killed 45,000 of their own people.
Wow, that number. Yeah, that number just keeps on getting exaggerated more. I mean, only one organization even says 30,000. And it's an organization directly connected to Israel and the U.S. government. Everybody else, every reputable organization says it's in the low. It's like I've seen between 3,000 and 7,000 from other organizations. But like some Israel-linked groups said 30,000, and now Trump's added 15,000 to it.
In Iran, 45,000 dead.
Wow, I mean, you killed 160 schoolgirls on the first in your first act of this thing. So clearly, you care very much about the lives and health of Iranian civilians.
For these terrorists to have nuclear weapons would be an intolerable threat.
They don't even have a nuclear weapons program, of course.
The most violent and thuggish regime on earth would be...
The most violent and thuggish regime on earth is losing a war against Iran right now.
...be free to carry out their campaigns of terror, coercion, conquest, and mass murder from behind a nuclear shield.
That is very interesting. I have never seen that admitted. This is an example of him actually saying the quiet part out loud. Because the thing is, the only thing that, like, even if Iran started developing nuclear weapons, which there's no evidence they ever did, except under the Shah, which the U.S. was cool with. But, if they did, they would never be able to develop a first strike capability because the U.S. and Russia and China have, hundreds or thousands of the fucking things. So literally the only thing they could develop is a nuclear deterrent. And they would, it is, let me say, kind of brave not to have one given the kind of level of threats that they've been facing. But that is the path they've decided to choose. But he's admitting this would be deterrent. It would be to deter attacks.
I will never let that happen.
Good.
And neither should any of our past presidents.
Well, literally, none of them had to bother with not letting that happen because Iran wasn't developing one in the first place. Like, this motherfucker assassinated the guy who wrote the fatwa that said that Iran would never develop nuclear weapons because they were barbaric and un-Islamic. I think the anti-nuke position in Iran gets weaker with every day of this thing.
Situation has been going on for 47 years and should have been handled long before I arrived in office.
Yep.
I did many things during my 2 terms in office.
That's true. He did do many things. But we've having done many things ourselves, it is time to wrap up. And I just want to once again tell you, in case you weren't there when I was talking about it earlier, that the first episode, the free sample episode of the Punto Final Translation Project podcast, is now available to anyone, free or paid subscribers, on my Patreon. And the subsequent episodes will be available to anyone who's either financially contributing to the project even once, or has subscribed at the $3 tier. And if you want to support the project, which also helps me stay afloat during what is easily one of the worst periods to be a translator in recent memory, that is always very much appreciated, and that link there is where you can do that. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time.